Ladies and gentlemen, every time you meet someone new, you are writing the first line of a story they will carry about you for the rest of their lives. Think about that. In a world where doors can open or close in seconds, one introduction can shape your future more than years of effort. The way you shake a hand, the way you look someone in the eye, the energy you bring into that moment, it decides whether people forget you the moment you leave or remember you long after you're gone. So the question is, when you step into that moment, what story are you writing about yourself? When you meet someone for the first time, imagine you're standing in line at a coffee shop. The barista calls out the order, the person next to you smiles, and suddenly you're face to face with a stranger. In that split second, you are communicating volumes without saying a word. The way you look up, whether you make eye contact, whether your shoulders are open or turned away, it all decides if that stranger sees you as approachable, confident, or forgettable. Think about being introduced to a friend of a friend at a dinner party. The music is on, people are chatting, and someone turns to you and says, "Hey, meet Alex." In that moment, you're either the person who looks distracted, who mutters a quick hello before checking their phone, or you're the person who turns fully toward them, looks them in the eye, shakes their hand, and says, "It's great to meet you." That small difference decides whether you are remembered as polite background noise or as someone people want to know more about. Picture yourself walking into a job interview. You haven't said a word yet, but the interviewer already has a read on you. The way you step through the door, the way you acknowledge the person across the table, the way you sit down, confident or timid, engaged or checked out, all of that is being judged before you. Now open your mouth. And here's the truth. That first impression is difficult to undo. You either gain ground in those first few seconds, or you spend the rest of the meeting trying to recover it. Or think about a casual networking event. You're holding a glass of water, moving through the crowd, and you meet someone new. In that moment, you have a choice. To introduce yourself with a flat, "Hi, I'm..." That evaporates instantly. Or to own the moment with presence, standing tall, giving a genuine smile, and showing that you're not just passing through the room, but that you're someone worth remembering. Even everyday scenarios matter. Imagine waiting for an elevator. The doors open, you step inside, and someone else follows. You're standing shoulder to shoulder for the next 30 seconds. Most people avoid eye contact, stare at the floor, or look at their phones. But if you simply acknowledge the other person with a nod, a smile, or a confident "good morning," you've created connection where most people default to disconnection. Meeting new people doesn't only happen in big moments. It happens at the checkout line, when you're introduced to your neighbor's friend, when you're seated next to someone on a flight. These are opportunities most people overlook, but every one of them tests your ability to present yourself with strength, confidence, and authenticity. And that's the part most people underestimate. They think introductions are just about polite words, but in reality, they are emotional imprints. The first time you meet someone, you are leaving behind a mark they may carry for years. That mark could open doors for you, or it could quietly close them without you ever knowing. Think about the last time you met someone who radiated calm confidence. You didn't remember every word they said, but you remembered the way they carried themselves, the way their presence felt grounded. And in contrast, think of the person who showed up distracted, fidgeting, half present. That memory lingers too, but not in your favor. When you meet new people, your body is already telling your story. If your arms are crossed, if your shoulders slump, if your eyes dart around the room, people notice. They may not consciously label it, but they feel it. And feelings drive connection. You want to project openness, not defensiveness. For example, if you're introduced to someone at a casual dinner, lean in slightly, not back. Turn your body toward them instead of away. That simple shift communicates, "I'm here, I'm present, I value this exchange." Now think about your voice again. Most people don't realize how much power they give away by speaking too fast, too soft, or too timidly. Imagine meeting a hiring manager who asks your name and you answer in a rush, barely audible, like you're unsure if you should even be there. That moment can sabotage everything that follows. But if you take a breath, steady yourself, and speak with clarity, "Hi, I'm glad to be here," you immediately shift how they perceive you. Your words are the same, but your delivery changes everything. Another powerful practice when meeting new people is to slow down your mind. Too often, people are so worried about what to say next that they miss what's happening in front of them. True confidence is found in stillness, in being able to listen without scrambling for your next line. Imagine talking to someone at a networking event. Most people are just waiting for their turn to speak, nodding while their mind races. But the person who listens fully, who pauses before responding, who reflects back something meaningful, that's the person who stands out. It's rare, and rare always gets remembered. There is also the matter of respect. People want to feel seen. When you meet someone new, don't glance at your phone, don't scan the room behind them, don't treat them like an interruption. Lock in. In those first seconds, you are telling them, ho, wumuk, they matter to you. And respect doesn't require grand gestures, it's in the small things. Saying their name, acknowledging what they share, asking one genuine follow-up question. That's how trust begins. Now let's talk about nerves. Everyone feels them when meeting someone new, but nerves don't have to control you. You can channel that energy. For example, if you're about to meet a senior executive, your heart may race, your palms may sweat. Instead of fighting it, frame it as readiness. Remind yourself, this is your body gearing up, not shutting down. Take a slow breath, ground your feet, roll your shoulders back, and use that energy to fuel presence instead of panic. The person in front of you isn't perfect either, they're human. And when you remember that, you take away the intimidation factor. Humor can also be a bridge, but it must be used carefully. Forced jokes fall flat, but a genuine smile or a lighthearted comment about the environment can ease tension. Picture standing in a crowded elevator with someone you've just met, saying, well, at least we survived the wait. With a relaxed smile shows you're approachable without trying too hard. Humor works best when it's natural and situational, not rehearsed. There's another layer most people overlook: consistency. You cannot show up with confidence in one interaction and then fall apart in the next. People notice patterns. If you're introduced to someone at work and you're strong, composed, but then later that same day they see you slouching, avoiding eye contact, speaking timidly, the impression shifts. Presence must be a habit, not a performance. Practice it everywhere, in the grocery store line, at the gym, with your neighbors. The more consistent you are, the less effort it takes when the stakes are high. When you meet people in group settings, the dynamics change. For instance, at a team meeting with new members are introduced, most people only focus on the leader or the dominant voices in the room. But the person who acknowledges everyone, who makes eye contact with not just the main speaker but also the quieter people at the table, gains silent respect. You're showing that you see beyond status, that you recognize value in everyone. That makes you memorable, because it's uncommon. There's also power in curiosity. People love to talk about themselves, but most rarely get asked meaningful questions. Instead of defaulting to small talk like, what do you do? Try something more personal, yet respectful. What's been the most interesting part of your week so far? Or, what do you enjoy most about your work? These questions spark conversations that go beyond surface level, and they position you as someone who truly connects. Now let's address the mistake of overperforming. When meeting someone new, many people feel the need to prove their worth right away. They overtalk, list accomplishments, or try to dominate the conversation. But here's the truth: people respect quiet confidence more than loud self-promotion. Imagine you're introduced to someone accomplished. Instead of unloading your resume, you simply engage with calm presence, asking thoughtful questions and speaking when it adds value. That restraint communicates more strength than boasting ever could. Every introduction is also a chance to leave behind integrity. If you promise to follow up, do it. If you say you'll connect them with someone, follow through. Reliability is rare, and people remember those who honor their word. That follow-through reinforces the impression you made in the beginning. Without it, the strong start fades into nothing. Another key element is adaptability. You may meet people in different environments: formal settings, casual ones, stressful moments, or celebratory occasions. Your ability to adjust while maintaining authenticity is vital. If you're at a formal event, show polish without stiffness. If you're at a casual gathering, relax without becoming sloppy. The core, your confidence, respect, presence, remains steady, but your delivery adapts to the room. That flexibility shows emotional intelligence. Finally, remember that introductions don't end at the first handshake or hello. They continue in the follow-up. A quick message the next day saying, "It was great meeting you. I appreciated our conversation about..." reinforces the connection. Most people don't bother, which is exactly why doing so makes you stand out. The introduction was the spark. The follow-up is the flame that keeps it alive. So the next time you meet someone new, whether it's the stranger next to you in line, the executive across the table, or the neighbor you've never spoken to, understand that you hold the power to shape how they see you. Your body, your voice, your presence, your respect, your authenticity, all of it matters. And the person who masters this is not just remembered, but respected. Respect is powerful, but it's not given easily. When you meet new people, you don't just want them to like you want them to respect you. Liking is surface level. It comes and goes with mood, with preference, with circumstance. Respect lasts longer. Respect is what makes people trust your words, open doors for you, and think of you when opportunity arises. And here's the truth, respect is earned in the very first exchange. Think about how many times you've met someone who seemed charming, even likable, but you couldn't take them seriously. Maybe it was the way they exaggerated their stories, maybe it was the nervous laugh at everything, or maybe it was how they tried too hard to impress. Those people don't inspire respect. They inspire mild entertainment at best, dismissal at worst. Compare that to the person who doesn't rush to prove themselves, who listens fully, speaks with clarity, and carries themselves with quiet certainty. You respect that person because they don't need external validation. They know who they are. Respect also comes from the ability to hold your ground. Imagine you're introduced to someone at a group dinner and everyone's talking over each other. Some people get louder just to compete for attention, while others shrink back and disappear. But the person who waits, times their words carefully, and speaks with calm certainty without raising their voice, shifts the energy in the room. People lean in, not because they shouted louder, but because they spoke with authority. Authority doesn't need volume, it needs conviction. Another critical piece of earning respect when meeting new people is alignment between what you say and how you say it. If your words are strong but your body language is weak, there's a mismatch. People notice inconsistency immediately. For example, you could say, "I'm confident in what I do," but if your shoulders slump and your eyes avoid contact, no one will believe you. People trust congruence. They trust the person whose body language, tone, and words all tell the same story. If you want to be respected, make sure every signal you send reinforces the same message. There is also great power in restraint. When you meet someone for the first time, resist the urge to give away too much. You don't need to tell your life story, your struggles, or your successes in one sitting. Share just enough to spark curiosity, but not so much that you overwhelm or diminish your value. Think of it like this. The most compelling people leave others wanting more. They don't overshare, they don't over-explain, and they don't seek approval through endless talking. They know that mystery is part of influence. Now let's take a realistic scenario. You're meeting a potential client for the first time. They walk in and within minutes they're deciding if they can trust you. You might think it's about your pitch or your portfolio, but it starts much earlier. As with whether you greeted them confidently, whether you listened without interrupting, whether you respected their time by being prepared. These are the small details that decide whether they see you as credible. You can have the best ideas in the world, but if your presence in that first meeting doesn't back them up, they won't buy into you. Respect also comes from how you handle being challenged. Imagine you're at a social gathering and someone disagrees with something you say. Most people get defensive, raise their voice, or try to shut the other person down, but the one who stays calm, acknowledges the different view, and responds with composure immediately earns respect. It shows control. It shows security. You don't have to agree with everyone, but you must show that you can handle disagreement without losing your balance. That's strength. When meeting new people, it's also important to recognize the role of self-awareness. You need to know how you're being perceived. Too often, people move through interactions without realizing the signals they're giving off. Are you speaking too much about yourself? Are you interrupting without realizing it? Are you fidgeting in ways that make you appear anxious? Self-awareness is like a mirror. It reflects back the image you're projecting so you can adjust. Without it, you risk sending messages you never intended. One way to strengthen this is to observe others. Watch how the most respected people enter a room, how they greet others, how they pause before speaking. You'll notice they never rush, they never scramble, and they never look like they're trying too hard. They command attention by being intentional. Start modeling those small behaviors until they become second nature. Presence is a skill, not just a trait. Respect also deepens when you treat everyone with equal dignity. For instance, when you're introduced to so only one powerful in a company, it's easy to focus all your attention on them. But people notice how you treat the assistant, the server, or the person in the background. The person who treats everyone the same, with kindness, with acknowledgement, stands out. It signals humility, and humility paired with confidence is unstoppable. Let's go deeper into listening. Active listening is not nodding while waiting for your turn to speak. It's absorbing, reflecting, and responding in a way that makes people feel heard. Imagine someone tells you about a challenge they're facing at work. The average response is, "Oh yeah, I've been through something similar," and then it turns into your story. That kills connection. But if instead you say, "That sounds tough, how are you handling it?" you've shifted the focus back to them. People walk away thinking they actually cared. That builds respect faster than any polished self-presentation. Another dimension of meeting new people is adaptability in cultural awareness. Not every greeting is a handshake. Not every introduction carries the same expectations. When you travel, when you work across borders, when you meet people with different backgrounds, respect comes from honoring their customs. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about demonstrating awareness and flexibility. That small effort communicates intelligence and humility at the same time. Let's not overlook the role of discipline in these interactions. Presence requires practice. For example, if you know you slouch naturally, practice standing tall until it feels natural. If you speak too quickly when nervous, rehearse slowing your words. If you struggle to remember names, train your memory by repeating names right after hearing them. Discipline in small habits creates automatic strength in bigger moments. And when those high-pressure introductions happen, job interviews, key meetings, new opportunities, you'll have trained yourself to shine without forcing it. Respect is also earned when people sense integrity. When you meet someone and they ask about your work or your background, don't inflate your story. Don't try to appear more than you are. People can sense exaggeration, and it instantly erodes credibility. Confidence isn't pretending to be something else. It's owning exactly who you are and where you are, without apology. Integrity is magnetic because it's rare. People respect those who are honest, not those who are flashy. Finally, remember that first impressions aren't the end. They're the beginning. The way you show up in that initial moment sets the tone for every interaction that follows. And people will be watching. They'll be asking themselves, was that confidence real? Was that respect genuine? Was that presence consistent? Every time you meet someone new, you are building your reputation one brick at a time, and that reputation, over years, becomes your foundation. That foundation is what people stand on when they decide how to treat you. When they think of you, when they bring your name up in rooms you are not in, when they choose whether to trust you with an opportunity, it is that foundation they are measuring. Every introduction you've ever made, every first impression you've ever given, every small interaction you thought didn't matter, all of it adds weight to your reputation. Some people lose sight of this. They act one way when they meet someone they think is important, and another way when the person seems insignificant. But the world doesn't work like that. The person you brushed off at a casual gathering could end up being the decision maker in your next big moment. Consistency is the glue. You cannot afford to pick and choose when you show up as your best self. The version of you who introduces yourself to a neighbor, the version of you who greets a stranger in an elevator, the version of you who shakes hands with a CEO, all of those versions must look like the same person. Because when you are steady, when you are consistent, you become predictable in the best possible way. People know what to expect from you, and that builds trust. Trust is one of the most valuable currencies in the world. When you meet someone and they trust you right away, they lower their guard, they open up, they listen differently. And trust doesn't come from big promises. It comes from the small things. Looking someone in the eye when they speak, not interrupting, following through on what you say you'll do, showing up on time. People think trust is built through dramatic gestures, but in truth, it's built through discipline in the details. Think about a networking event. You meet someone, and they tell you about a new project they're working on. You nod, you smile, but you barely take it in because you're already thinking about who else you want to meet in the room. That person can sense it. They walk away knowing you didn't value their time. Now compare that to you asking one or two thoughtful questions, repeating back a detail they mentioned, and remembering it later. Maybe you follow up with, "Hey, how did that project you told me about turn out?" That person now sees you as someone who actually listens, and that sets you apart. You also need to understand the difference between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance repels, confidence attracts. Arrogance shows up in overtalking, cutting people off, trying to dominate every space. Confidence shows up in calm composure, speaking only when necessary, and knowing you don't need to prove anything. Arrogant people are remembered for the wrong reasons. Confident people are respected. When you meet new people, check yourself. Are you trying to impress, or are you simply showing up as who you are? The first one creates pressure, the second creates freedom. Another area people underestimate is the ability to create calm in a room. When you meet someone new, you can either add to their stress or ease it. Picture walking into a high-stakes meeting. Everyone's tense, people are fragile. Eating, voices are sharp. If you come in frantic, you add to the chaos. But if you come in grounded, slow movement, steady voice, composed body language, you shift the entire atmosphere. People gravitate toward those who bring calm under pressure. It makes them feel safe, and safety creates respect. Then there's vulnerability, but the right kind. When meeting new people, you don't need to expose your deepest struggles, but you do need to let them see that you are human. Perfection creates distance. Authenticity creates connection. For example, if someone asks about your work and you share not just your success, but also one challenge you overcame, it shows humility and resilience. People respect those who don't hide behind a mask, because it takes strength to be real. Attention to detail in introductions matters too. If you're introduced to someone and they mention their name, remember it. Use it in conversation. Nothing makes people feel more invisible than when you forget or mispronounce their name within minutes. If you struggle with names, practice repeating them right after you hear them. "Nice to meet you, Sarah." That small habit signals respect and attentiveness. And be careful with your energy. Some people drain others the moment they meet them by complaining, oversharing negativity, or pulling the focus onto themselves. Nobody walks away thinking, "I want more of that." But if your presence uplifts, even subtly, people will want you around. This doesn't mean you fake happiness or force positivity. It means you discipline yourself not to dump negativity on people you've just met. Save that for trusted circles. When you meet someone new, bring steady, constructive energy. Silence is another tool too many people overlook. Most rush to fill gaps in conversation with nervous words, but silence, when used intentionally, communicates strength. If someone asks you a question, don't be afraid to pause before you answer. That pause makes your words more powerful because it shows you are thoughtful, not reactive. Imagine being in a group where everyone is talking over each other. The person who pauses, then speaks slowly and with intent, shifts the room. People listen because they sense weight in the words. You must also prepare for the moments you least expect. Meeting new people isn't just about planned introductions. It happens in passing, at the airport, in a hallway, waiting for your coffee. These moments matter because you never know who you're crossing paths with. If you carry yourself with presence all the time, you don't have to switch it on for the important people. It's just who you are, and that authenticity builds a reputation far stronger than any scripted introduction. Think about body control. The way you use your hands when you speak, the way you fidget or stay still, the way you move in space, all of that is communication. If your hands are restless, if you're constantly adjusting your clothes, if you're tapping your foot, you're signaling nervousness. But if your movements are deliberate, gestures aligned with your words, posture steady, you signal control. Control is respected. You also need to train your presence under distraction. Maybe you're in a busy environment, loud noises around you, people moving past, and you're introduced to someone. Most people let the distraction pull their attention. The person they're speaking to can feel it immediately. But if you can lock in, despite the chaos, give them full attention as if the world around you has faded, they will feel valued. And value is what builds connection. Never underestimate the compound effect of small moments. One strong introduction won't transform your life, but hundreds of them will. Every handshake, Every smile, every attentive exchange is a brick in the foundation of your influence. Over time, those bricks build walls of credibility so solid that people can't ignore you. That's how leaders rise. That's how doors open. It doesn't happen in one grand gesture. It happens in the discipline of daily presence. And above all, remember this. People are not just hearing your words when they meet you. They are reading your face, your posture, your energy, your timing. They are deciding in seconds if you are strong, if you are real, if you are worth remembering. Your responsibility is to make sure every one of those signals works in your favor. Because introductions are not small moments. They are opportunities disguised as routine encounters, and those opportunities are often invisible until much later. You may not realize that the person you smiled at in a waiting room, the person you spoke to kindly in line, or the colleague you treated with respect on their first day might one day hold influence over your path. That's why you cannot afford to treat introductions like throwaway moments. You never know which one will circle back into your life at a critical time. It could be years later when someone says, "I remember how you carried yourself the first time we met." That memory could be the deciding factor in whether they call your name for something important. Think about how many times you've recalled a first meeting with someone who left an impression on you. Maybe it was the way they gave you their full attention when everyone else was distracted. Maybe it was the calm way they spoke when others were nervous. Maybe it was how they remembered something small you said and brought it up later. That impression stuck, even when the details of the conversation faded. People carry those same memories of you. Every introduction is a chance to plant a seed in someone's mind, a seed that might grow into trust, opportunity, or loyalty. But the opposite is true as well. A careless introduction, a dismissive attitude, a distracted first encounter can plant a very different kind of seed, one that silently works against you. You might never hear about it, but the impact is real. People talk, they remember, and they share stories about the way you made them feel. One careless moment can close a door before you even knew it was open. That is why awareness is everything. Meeting new people is not about perfection, it's about presence. You don't need to have the perfect line, the perfect joke, or the perfect introduction. What you need is to be fully there. If you meet someone and you're too busy rehearsing what to say, you're not listening. If you're worried about how you look, you're not connecting. If you're calculating whether they're worth your time, you're missing the bigger picture. Presence means valuing the moment for what it is, not for what you want to extract from it. People can sense when you're genuinely engaged, and they can sense when you're not. Another overlooked skill is patience. Sometimes when you meet new people, they may not seem open right away. They might be guarded, reserved, or even dismissive. Most people give up instantly, deciding that person is not worth the effort. But patience changes the outcome. If you don't force connection, if you respect their boundaries while staying consistent in your presence, you often win their trust over time. Some of the strongest relationships begin with resistance. Patience is what allows the walls to come down. There's also a balance between humility and confidence that must be struck in every introduction. Too much humility, and people may overlook you. Too much confidence, and people may feel pushed away. The art is in blending both. For example, when someone asks what you do, you don't minimize yourself by saying, "Oh, it's nothing special." That tells people you don't value yourself, so why should they? But you also don't inflate yourself with arrogance. Instead, you share with clarity and composure, then shift the focus back to them. That balance makes you approachable, yet respectable. Consider also the environment in which you're meeting people, the content. X changes how you should present yourself. Meeting someone in a professional setting demands polish and attentiveness, while meeting someone in a casual environment allows for warmth and ease. But the core of you should remain the same. If people meet two drastically different versions of you depending on the setting, it raises questions about your authenticity. Adapt the style, but never change the substance. Your energy is contagious, and that is one of the most powerful tools you carry. If you enter a room anxious, everyone feels it. If you walk into a conversation distracted, it spreads. But if you show up centered, calm, and engaged, people mirror that back. This is why leaders influence entire groups simply by how they carry themselves. When you meet someone, ask yourself, what energy am I transferring right now? Because you are always transferring something, whether you're aware of it or not. Let's talk about memory. People often assume that making a strong first impression means being unforgettable in a flashy way. But being remembered isn't about being loud or dramatic. It's about leaving behind a clear, consistent image of who you are. Imagine meeting someone who's calm, articulate, respectful, and authentic. Even if the conversation was short, you walk away knowing exactly who they are. Contrast that with someone who's trying too hard to impress. You remember fragments, but not substance. Consistency in presence makes you easy to recall, and that recall is what leads people to bring your name into rooms long after you've left. Another powerful strategy is generosity of spirit. When you meet new people, ask yourself, can I give something small in this moment? It could be encouragement, acknowledgement, or even just genuine appreciation. For example, if someone shares something they're working on and you say, that sounds meaningful, I can tell you've put thought into it. You've given them validation most people never bother to offer. That small generosity makes you stand out because it's rare. People remember those who made them feel stronger, not weaker. Think about the long game. Introductions aren't about instant payoff. They're about planting seeds you may not see grow for years. You might meet someone today, forget about them, and 3 years later they might be the one who recommends you for an opportunity. But that only happens if the seed you planted during your first meeting was strong. That's why you treat every introduction with respect, not just the ones you think will benefit you right now. You never know which ones will change your path down the line. When you meet someone, pay attention to your pace. Rushing through an introduction communicates that you're too busy or uninterested. Taking your time, speaking slowly, pausing, shows that you value the interaction. People often mirror your pace. If you rush, they rush. If you're calm, they slow down. Control the tempo, and you control the tone of the interaction. It's also worth mentioning how important it is to manage your emotions during introductions. If you're having a bad day and you let it spill into the interaction, it colors the impression. People don't know the full story. They only see how you showed up in that moment. Self-control is key. Even if you're frustrated or stressed, you can still choose to meet someone with respect and composure. That choice protects your reputation from being shaped by temporary emotions. The truth is, meeting new people is one of the most important life skills you can ever master. It determines how doors open for you, how networks expand, how influence grows. Every person you meet is either going to remember you as someone who was present, confident, and authentic, or someone who faded into the background, distracted and forgettable. The difference isn't luck, it's deliberate, it's discipline, it's awareness. And here's the challenge most avoid. It's easier to fake it for one meeting, harder to sustain it over time. But sustained presence, sustained confidence, sustained respect, that's what builds a reputation so strong that people speak of you with admiration even when you're not around. That doesn't come from a single introduction. It comes from hundreds, repeated with intention, until the way you meet people is no longer something you perform, it's simply who you are.